According to the Russian Defense Ministry, the terrorist group Tahrir al-Sham is making preparations to carry out a chemical weapons attack in Syria as a false flag to try and blame on the Syrian government. Hello everyone, today is Monday, March 9th, 2021. Welcome to Blackstone Intelligence. I'm Jake Morphonios. It has long been the goal of the CIA-backed Al-Qaeda terror network to repeat in Syria what they successfully accomplished in Libya, which was the overthrow of the government for the benefit of vulture capitalists, including international bankers and the multinational corporations that they invest in. Understand, though, Al-Qaeda is more like an association of many different terrorist militias with overlapping agendas rather than a single homogeneous group where they all think the same, all do the same things, all have the same goals. That's just not the case. But because of this, the Sunni Muslim factions, which constitute the body of the terror network, is always in flux. You have member groups that come in, they go out. You have feuds and rivalries over time. The makeup of the network changes. There are also Al-Qaeda networks in several different geographies. You have Al-Qaeda everywhere from Sudan to Libya and Yemen on over to Pakistan. The Al-Qaeda network in the Middle Eastern Levant was founded in 2004 as a result of the U.S. conquest of Iraq. And by the way, when I say Levant, what we are referring to is the territory that runs basically through what's known as the Fertile Crescent. It goes from roughly Libya and Egypt in North Africa up through the Sinai Peninsula into Palestine, up to Turkey, eastward into Syria, and back down into going down through Iraq. Well, the strength of Al-Qaeda in the Levant faded after the 2007 troop surge that the President Obama ordered. But in 2011, Al-Qaeda began to revive with covert support from the Central Intelligence Agency. And this terror network has played a role in various Arab Spring uprisings, and that includes Libya's. In 2011, Al-Qaeda commanders joined together with Al-Harakat al-Islamiyya al-Libya, which in English is the Libyan Islamic movement. And this terrorist team-up led to the overthrow of the government of Libya and to the brutal murder of its longtime leader, Muammar Gaddafi. They filmed Gaddafi being sodomized with a bayonet, and then they shot him to death in the chest. So this terrorist nexus received significant weapons and logistical support while they were trying to overthrow the country from the CIA. They also received airstrike assistance from NATO warplanes, and France played a big role in that. After the coup, a band of rival militants in Libya knew that the United States was running a weapons trafficking rat line out of Libya up to Turkey to route down to Syria and Iraq. And this was being run out of Libya's port city of Benghazi. So seeking to raid a weapons cache for themselves, but unaware of a secret CIA black site where the weapons were a mile away, what these militants did was they attacked the U.S. Embassy. They killed the U.S. ambassador, Stevens, in the process. And this catastrophe, a public relations disaster, prompted Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to quickly peddle a bogus cover story about a group of Muslims angry about a low-budget film about the Prophet Muhammad. And that's why they attacked the embassy. Many of those terrorists who had participated in the Libyan war ended up finding work after it was over. They needed something, so they got jobs as mercenaries in Iraq and Syria. It was to those Al-Qaeda affiliates in the Levant, the upper Levant, that the Benghazi weapons were being sent to. And the most notorious of the Al-Qaeda militias in Syria was known as Al-Nusra Front. Al-Nusra Front. If you don't know in Arabic, al just means the word the in English, the Nusra Front. These terrorists were the worst of the worst. Al-Nusra, just absolutely barbaric. Videos of them cutting the hearts out of the chests of their enemies and eating it on camera. These are the guys who ended up receiving support from the CIA under a classified weapons and training program known as Timber Sycamore. Ostensibly, this program was authorized by President Barack Obama to support only the quote-unquote moderate rebels who were fighting to overthrow the Syrian government. But in reality, because these groups are intermingled, U.S. tax-funded weapons were ending up in the hands of al-Qaeda affiliates like Al-Nusra Front all the time. Then you have the issue of financing from these Gulf terror states like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates that created an influx of thousands and thousands of foreign mercenaries ending up in that region of the Levant, eventually making up roughly 30% of the terrorist forces in the Syria-Iraq region. When Al-Nusra Front and other al-Qaeda affiliates in Iraq and Syria merged together, they took on the name ISIS, or the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or al-Sham. And it's also known as ISIL, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Everybody knows the trail of blood and rape and slavery, the mass slaughter of civilians by ISIS was paved unwittingly by the American taxpayer. And it was partly anger over these revelations that led many Americans to develop such a strong hatred toward Obama, but more specifically toward Hillary Clinton. Now, that's also one reason why there was a lot of early support for Donald Trump, because he made a lot of promises to end U.S. involvement in Syria. Unfortunately, he broke his promise while serving in office. Because of his quest to control Syrian oil fields, he wouldn't withdraw the troops. Now, today, under President Joe Biden, it appears that part 2 of the CIA's attempt to destabilize the Syrian government is about to begin. And among the deadly tactics of the past used by these terrorists that appears to be in the process of being resurrected is the use of the false flag chemical attack, at least according to Russia. It was, in fact, a chemical attack back in 2013 that led President Obama to begin direct U.S. attacks on Syria to begin with. We go back to the early morning hours of August 21st, 2013. Rockets struck the capital of Syria, the outskirts of Damascus and the suburbs of Ghouta. On impact, these rockets released sarin gas, and it killed up to 1,700 people. The factions who were trying to overthrow the Syrian government, including Israel, they, of course, blamed the attack on Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The factions who were trying to prevent the overthrow of the government, including Russia, blamed the attack on those anti-government terrorists. But under international pressure, and in a bid to try and prevent a major war with the United States, the Syrian government handed over its entire chemical stockpile to a joint mission that was led by the United States and the OPCW, which is the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. And they did this in 2014. But you skip forward 3 years, there was another significant chemical attack that took place. And this was in April of 2017 in Khan Shaykhun, which is in the Syrian province of Idlib. So Syrian jets come in, the Syrian Air Force bombards terrorist facilities there. After these strikes, immediately afterward, sarin gas spews out from somewhere, kills about 89 people, including many children, wounds another 500-something people. And the images of the dead were spread everywhere in the media. and used as propaganda against the Syrian government. Here in the United States, you had first daughter Ivanka Trump Kushner weeping at the sight of the images and petitioning her father to take action against Assad. Of course, we can suspect that perhaps some of that encouragement to attack Syria was not so much Ivanka's desire as it was the desire of her husband, Jared Kushner, who was extremely close friends and longtime family friends of Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel. So you've got that going on in the White House. Over in the United Nations, you have Ambassador to the UN Security Council, Nikki Haley. She is there saying that toppling Assad was now a top priority of the United States and the Trump administration. And so with the urging of CIA Director Mike Pompeo, President Trump called this chemical weapons attack reprehensible, and he dismissed requests to wait for an investigation to be conducted and completed to determine the source of the chemicals, so that blame could be assigned one way or another with a little bit of accuracy rather than just based on speculation. Without the constitutionally required consent of Congress, Donald Trump unilaterally ordered a cruise missile strike on a Syrian air base that housed Russian forces in Syria, nearly triggering direct warfare with Russia, and in the process sending the hopes of a U.S. withdrawal from Syria up in smoke. Later on, it was determined that terrorist sympathizers who were working as white helmets, these are first responders, it was revealed that they had staged the children's bodies for some of these photos. And as Blackstone Intelligence proved years ago, at the time, by analyzing all of these different photos, as gruesome and grim as they were, I was able to demonstrate the same children wearing the exact same clothes, showing up in photos in multiple locations. In rubble, in one room or another, the white helmets were moving them to create this incendiary propaganda that was designed to elicit international wrath at Assad. And again, Assad denied responsibility, and his denial was echoed by the Russian Ministry of Defense, which had predicted in advance of that attack that these terrorists were preparing to stage a chemical weapons incident to blame on the Syrian government in an attempt to try and provoke additional U.S. action. Well, today, the Russian Ministry of Defense has again announced that it has in its possession intelligence suggesting that the terrorists are again preparing a chemical weapons provocation so that they can accuse the Syrian government of involvement in it. We've got a new president in office, one who was in office at the time of the previous CIA machinations in Syria, Joe Biden. And perhaps there is some hope that Biden is more willing than Trump to allow things to move forward with the attempt to overthrow Assad. In Russia today, the Deputy Defense Minister, Major General Alexander Karpov, said this, quote, "The terrorists are planning to conduct a staged chemical attack in a specially built camp in the village of Kabana, the Idlib province, involving the residents of the province as victims, and the injured people, in order to accuse the Syrian government forces of using chemical weapons against civilians." The Russians have made a similar claim in the past. Now, in this statement, the terrorists specifically that Karpov is referring to are the terrorists from al-Nusra Front. Since 2017, they have rebranded themselves under the name Tahrir al-Sham. Tahrir al-Sham has been designated, by the way, here in the United States as a terrorist organization, despite the CIA's past assistance to the group. So, Is there a merit to Russia's claims of a potential terrorist attack, or is this nothing more than Russian propaganda? Does announcing this information lessen the odds of the attack happening, or is the announcement simply designed as a strategic cover because Russia knows that Assad is getting ready to carry out another seemingly senseless chemical weapons attack against his own people? I know what I believe, but I'll leave it to you to make up your own mind. Do you enjoy Blackstone intelligence reports? I hope you do. If so, help me counter YouTube's punitive suppression by liking this video and sharing it on social media. And if you'd like to see more reports like this, if you want to see an increase in frequency, help me make the work profitable by making a donation to support my efforts. You can do this one of three ways. First, you can become a monthly sponsor of my work at patreon.com/endtimesnewsreport. If you sponsor me for $5 or more a month, you get access to bonus video footage that I don't put out publicly. Second, you can make a one-time donation to me at paypal.me/endtimesnewsreport. Any amount is appreciated. Third way is you can just mail a check or money order or send me a letter to say hello at Jake Morphonios, P.O. Box 1333, Kernersville, North Carolina 27285. Together we can make a difference in the world through education, accurate reporting, and waking our neighbors up to the activities of the globalist operatives that overthrow countries and invade nations for the acquisition of wealth by targeting their resource markets like oil, diamonds, other minerals, whatever it may be. So thank you for joining me in this effort. Thank you for watching. For the Blackstone Intelligence Report, I'm Jake Morphonios.